for the mankind. Issue is not that mankind does not have enough resources out there that can fulfill the needs, at least the basic needs, and even many of the luxury needs as well. The main issue is the distribution of the wealth. And this is what we see in Islam, and specifically when we are talking about the life of Umar al-Khattab radiallahu anh. Some of the examples we mentioned, just to recap, so we have an idea that how in Islam the needs of every individual must be taken care by the one who is ruling over them. As we talked about, that Umar al-Khattab was even worried about, comes in different reports, that even if the baby goat by the river of Dajla trips, because trips that Umar was concerned that he will be held accountable by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala why Umar did not pave the path. That's about the animals. And of course, we have already covered many stories about events. A story sometimes sounds like as if you're talking about some fantasy or some fairy tale or something. Rather, these were the events of the history. That how Umar took care of the affairs of every individual's Muslims and non-Muslims. Now, today, as we discussed last week, we will move into another subject, which is the judiciary. How the judiciary was run in the time of Umar al-Khattab radiallahu anh. Now, when I was referring to the social system of Islam, or economic system of Islam, and I brought an example and I said, look, we have been away from Islamic way of ruling for so long that it is very difficult for us to comprehend that there is a system that exists, economic system. Because most of the time, anybody talks about economy in Islam, we only can think of what? Zakah and no riba. Max we go to, okay, we have to give the nafaqah. Or there's a dowry also that needs to be paid, even though that's part of the social system. Now, similarly, when we talk about the judiciary, the enemies of Islam have done a job in a manner that today judiciary just brings to the mind of the Muslims or even non-Muslims as, okay, you're just talking about cutting the hands of the thief, or stoning somebody, or chopping the head of somebody. That's all we can think of judiciary. But in reality, judiciary is also a comprehensive system that exists in Islam and that ruled over the mankind for about a major part of the mankind for 13 centuries or so. And it's not that we are trying to show that the Islam is, there were not mistakes made by the people within those systems. People can make mistakes no matter what system we talk about. So main concern and discussion should always be, it is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala when we talk about Islam. And that is for all the mankind, black, brown, yellow, white, regardless of age, gender, whatever we are talking about, what language we speak, it applies in a just manner on the whole mankind. And judiciary, when you talk about that, it is in a very comprehensive manner, takes care of affairs of all the people. If you go back, how Islam runs, the judiciary, the same way we have even forgotten this as well. Look into it. Islam actually divides the judiciary into 3 different kinds of judges among the Muslims. One who takes care of the affairs in the market area, specifically goes to the market and even give different kinds of, if you want to call them tickets in today's terminology, or if there is an issue that the punishment is given at the spot. So if people are cheating in the marketplaces, then there's a decision is made by the judge right there. Then there's another type of judges which is called Qadi al-Khusumat. So the first one is called Qadi al-Hisbah, the one who goes into marketplaces. Second one is called Qadi al-Khusumat, the one who goes, who takes care of the affairs of the people if they have issues within each other. So we're talking about the subject of the state, and people have disputes among each other. So that Qadi, the Qadi al-Khusumat, he takes care of these kinds of issues. Now, the third one, which is the Qadi al-Madalim, so which is the Qadi that takes care of the issues between the state officials, including the Khalifa himself, and the subject of the state. So these are the 3 specific offices that exist in Islam. And this is important for us that we study Islam from that perspective. Perspective is the key thing. If we don't have the perspective, we will read through these things and we would not know that what we have just read. So we have to look at the text that Allah Azza wa Jal sent us through Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam in the form of the Quran and the Sunnah, from a perspective that Allah revealed to us a comprehensive way of life that includes all systems of lives as well. Okay, now talking about Umar ibn Khattab radiallahu anhu, inshallah there's different subjects we will be covering in the judiciary, and I'll start off with the importance of judicial system, and then what are the qualities a judge should have. And it's an important subject to understand the quality, because these qualities are not coming from thin air. Islam defines these qualities also and extracted again from what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has revealed. And in the time of Umar radiallahu anhu, and it becomes important for us to study the life of Umar, because at that time the state expanded at a very rapid speed, and the population increased, and now you have to take care of affairs of the people of a much higher area, much higher population, and hence there are more administrative things had to be taken care of. And we start seeing that many offices are coming into existence in the time of Umar ibn Khattab radiallahu anhu. It doesn't mean that Umar by any means, na'udhu billah, was doing a bid'ah or something. Rather, these are administrative things that you take care of the things in a manner that needs some administration. And administration is as if you can think of this way, that now when we are living in a time, in an era where cars are driven on the roads. Now when you are driving the cars, to administer the cars and the speeds and how if the accident happens, these are the administrative laws that the ruler is allowed to make in Islam. These are the mubahat, this is the permissible things where you make the rules. See, these are administrative rules, these are not ahkam shari'ah from the perspective of we have to have from the Quran and the Sunnah, you extract the rule from Quran, Sunnah, or Quran will be saying thou shalt not drive at the speed of 55. There's no such thing like that, of course, right? So that's administration, and that's not considered as the halal and haram directly from the Sharia in that sense. Okay, so now when we talk about the judicial system, as I said, in the time of Umar, we see more institutionalization of the judiciary, and we can see that, and that's coming from the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam sent Mu'adh bin Jabal radiallahu anhu to Yemen, and he asked him, how will you judge between the people? And his response was by the Kitab Allah. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam asked him, what if you don't find that in the Kitab Allah, what you are judging about? And his response was, then I will go to the Sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And he said, what if you don't find in Sunnah either? Then he said he will find the parallels, which is called the analogy or the qiyas, and this is within the boundaries of the Quran and Sunnah. You're going back to the Quran and Sunnah and you're looking for the parallel rulings about the subject. So it's still, the rule is coming from the Quran and the Sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was very pleased with the response of Mu'adh bin Jabal, and he was thanking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to send the Rasul of the Rasulullah, which is Mu'adh bin Jabal, is a messenger of the Messenger of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. In this case, the messenger referring to Mu'adh bin Jabal in the literal term, right? Okay, so this is coming from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and hence we find that Umar bin Khattab radiallahu anhu, he sent many letters to the judges who were ruling or making judgments between the disputes of the people, no matter which category of the judge he was. As I mentioned, there were 3 different categories of the judges we talked about. Qadi al-Hisbah, about the marketplaces; Khusumat, disputes between the people; and Madalim, which is of the Madlama, which is between the state employees, rulers, and the subject of the rulers. And we find that great contrast between the current judiciaries that exist and how Islam dealt with it. Even though sometimes you see the hints of that some things were taken from Islam. Look, and this is sometimes we are misled about this, that the moment we see something good in any other system, we say, oh, it must be taken from Islam. Look, it may be, maybe not. But the thing is, if we don't make Quran and the Sunnah as the source of the rule, this is an important point. If we don't make Quran and Sunnah as a source, meaning we go back to Quran and Sunnah and look for what Allah wants, then it is considered as a hukum shari. It will not be considered as a hukum shari if a person who is not going to Quran Sunnah thinking of this is something good, but rather he's just looking for it's beneficial, I'll take it no matter what system I'm running. I'm running a capitalistic system or socialist or whatsoever. I take it from Islam because, it looks beneficial at this point. That will not be considered as the hukum shari. Hukum shari is you go back to Allah Azza wa Jal looking for what Allah wants from me, and then you take it, extract it from the Quran, Sunnah and apply. Okay. Because in general, humans can at the end can conclude a ruling about an issue, and that may be similar to what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given also. Doesn't make it a rule from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay? Now, when Umar ibn Khattab radiallahu anh, he was assigning the judges to rule. In some cases, a wali or a governor of the place himself was a judge as well. In other cases, the wali was not a judge, but he assigned judges separately. And Umar radiallahu anh, even though he was a Khalifa, Amir al-Mu'mineen at that time, he himself made judgments. And we know, in the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam himself, even though he was a prophet, he was a ruler, and he made judgments between the people. So it is, at the end, it is up to the Khalifa. He is the one who is accountable for taking care of the affairs of the people. He is the one, either he makes judgments or he has to have people who will make judgments on his behalf. So he had judges, and there are numerous examples. Like for example, in some cases, Umar passed judgment even though he had judges in Medina. So he had judges in Medina as well, but he was passing judgment. Among the judges whose role was limited by Umar during his Khilafah was Abdullah bin Mas'ud, whom Umar appointed as a judge of Kufa. So he was a judge. He was not referred as the wali. Now, Qatada narrated that Abu Majlas, that Umar al-Khattab sent Ammar bin Yasir to lead the prayer of the Kufa in prayer. He sent Ammar bin Yasir to lead the people of Kufa in prayer, and sent Abdullah bin Mas'ud to be in charge of Baytul Mal and judiciary. So it depends how, this is called part of administration. That whichever way it suits to take care of the affairs in that case, according to the commands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because all these people, whether running Baytul Mal, whether it's the judiciary, whether it's leading the prayer, it is coming under Islam, and it has to be done according to the Sharia. Okay, and for example, Ya'la bin Umayyah was the governor of Sana'a, and Sufyan bin Abdullah al-Thaqafi, the governor of Ta'if. And Al-Mughira ibn Shu'bah was the governor of Kufa. As we just talked about the Kufa, there were different people who were doing passing the judgments and running the Baytul Mal, but when it comes to being the wali, being the governor, it was a different personality. Okay. I will not go into obviously all the judges that Umar placed. Rather, we are more interested in understanding when Umar placed the judges, what are the things that he made them accountable for? Like, for example, now, and there are many letters that exist which are reported from Umar ibn Khattab radiallahu anh to different judges. Now, remember one thing here. When we are talking about in Islam, first of all, the Quran and the Sunnah Quran is preserved in the written form and in the memorized form as well. And then the hadith were compiled in the form of narrations. And similarly, many of the things from the Sahaba Ridwanullah alayhim, which is called athar, or the reports from the Sahaba, were also preserved in the form of reports. There's a difference between reports and history. You know, in English they call it his story. Meaning, somebody is giving a story about the event that happened in his time and era. Hence, many a times the history is influenced by the ruling authorities of that time. They will write the history as that suits them. You know, just the other day we were having some discussions among some brothers that how would the people be looking at today's time in the coming future? Would they be laughing at this history? That what kind of a silly, stupid decisions people were making at that time? Or even worse than that, how would people be even justifying themselves about genocide was going on? What did they do to prevent the genocide? You know, sometimes non-Muslims, we hear them even to go to that extent. How can we answer our grandchildren or great-grandchildren when we were alive at that time and we stayed silent? This is non-Muslim talk like this. And as a Muslim, it's not the issue of if even I see my grandchildren or great-grandchildren, I know that we will be presented in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we will be accountable for that. So what did we do? What was our stance from the perspective of Amr bil Ma'ruf wa Nahy anil Munkar? We are accountable in front of Allah Azza wa Jal. So when we look at these reports, I'm going back to the subject now. So history is written this way, that it is his story, the one who's writing. It could be right, could be wrong. I'm not saying necessarily that all of them are wrong. But in Islam, when we preserve things, they are form of the narrations, meaning each person who's reporting from another person, you have to look for all the details about the personalities who are reporting something, meaning their lifestyle and how accurate they are in the reporting, and whether they are just or not, they are trustworthy or not. So when we look at these letters, they are not like the letters Doge is sending to fire the people. It is rather we are talking about something, a serious, real serious, of course that's serious too, but this is not a joke or the mockery that we were making. Rather, this is an important subject, that the way Umar ibn Khattab radiallahu anh was sending the letters to these judges. One of the reports that talk about Abu Ubaidah, Umar wrote a letter to him, and he said to Abu Ubaidah bin Jarrah, I have written to, and this is a Sahabi of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He is a person who became Muslim before Umar ibn Khattab radiallahu anh, one of the earliest Sahaba. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam referred to him as Aminul Ummah, the trustworthy of the Ummah, to whom Umar is, look, he is advising about, okay, I'm making you a judge, watch out. He said this, I have written to you a letter, quote, I have not spared myself for you any goodness. Adhere to these 5 characteristics and your religious commitment will be safe and you will succeed. When 2 disputants come to you, you must look for clear proof between them and a definitive oath. Be gentle with the weak one so that he will have the courage to speak. Take care of the stranger, for if the investigation into this case takes too long, he may give up and go back to his family. Strive to bring about reconciliation unless it becomes clear to you who is in the right and who is in the wrong. So these are the 5 points that he made. And look at these 5, each point is so relevant in today's time as well. Number 1 thing, it's not the issue of you make judgments based on doubts. In Islam, it is better to let the guilty person go than to punish an innocent person. It's from the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This is why Umar says that when they come, make sure it's clear, that the proof is clear and definitive oath has been taken. Then he said, be gentle with the weak. Why? You know, the weak person whose status is weak in the society could be wealth, could be just because of his stature, could be because of his tribe that he belongs to, whatsoever reason they are. He is can be overwhelmed by the strong ones. And he may not be even able to speak or defend himself in a proper manner. So he is instructing the judge, this is your job to make sure the weak is able to present his case in the precise manner. Okay? And then he says, take care of the stranger. Stranger means what? And subhanAllah, this is such an important one that is very relevant today. Stranger is somebody who's traveling. And imagine traveling means what in those days? You're not flying from one city to another city. You are away from your family members, you're away from your wealth, you're away from all the things that can give you strength as well. And you really want to return back to your family. And you are willing to even at that point, if you are a disputant, one of them, willing to even give in your rights because you want to get back to your wealth and your family and everything. So he's making sure that a stranger gets all the rights. Now, why is it relevant today? You know, if you go back if you go back to any of the examples today, whether it is the disputant is the corporation and the individual, and that corporation could be anything. Could be hospitals, could be engineering firms, could be tech or whatsoever, could be a law firm itself. Now these people are powerful to the point they have lines of lawyers for them to protect them. And now if these giants, they oppress somebody, they can delay the case intentionally. Why? Because a weak person, he will run out of wealth to even go back and keep back and forth between the courts and his house. He will run out of wealth. He will not even have enough to protect himself. Not to say even to win a case where he is oppressed. So this is what Omar is talking about. Don't make a situation where the stranger or a weak one, he will give in his rights. You have to make sure the judgment is swift. Judgment is not decades long going on. For example, how many of us probably heard cases where somebody was on the death row for decades and then they find out what? He was innocent. I was reading about a case, a person was on the death row for about 40 years, 4 decades. What does he have left in his life now? You know, the brothers here who are in technology or IT or something, pull yourself out from the technology for a few months. What happens to you? Obsolete. You'll fall so far behind that you will not be able to move properly in the society. Then imagine a person who's out for 40 years. And by the way, this is not a one-off case. You will find many cases like that. So there's a prison system is there, which is also feeding who? At the end of the day, don't forget, many of these prisons are private. People think of it, they're all federal or the government owned or something. There's a privatization of the prisons. And there's a cheap labor coming out of the prison. Hence it's good to keep all those prisoners behind the bars to produce. Remember, go back to the very same thing that I said. The way the economic system works is what? Increase the production. And increase the production in the cheapest manner. If it requires child labor, we'll do child labor. If it requires go and oppress people somewhere in Indonesia or China or Bangladesh's, what do you call that, garment factories, and so on and so forth. Whichever examples are many. I don't even have to go in there. But the thing is, it boils down to the very same thing. You're trying to say, oh, needs are many, resources are scarcity of resources, hence I have to increase the production. And the cheapest way of increasing the production. And look how it impacts everything. Trickle-down effect happens on the judiciary and on the economic system, social life, and so on and so forth. And the strong stays strong, gets stronger and stronger in these circumstances, and weak gets weaker. And look, these few principles that Umar is defining in the judiciary, how pivotal they are to solve the problems of the mankind at large. Okay, Umar wrote to Muawiyah radiallahu anh. He said, I have written to you a letter in which I have not spared myself, and similar kind of things he said. He said, adhere to the 5 characteristics, and in a different order, as he mentioned to Abu Ubaidah bin Jarrah radiallahu anh, he said the similar things. Now, so he came with some of the principles that he was just giving as advice on top of, they are all already have to give the judgments in the framework of the Quran and the Sunnah. Okay. It seems like I will not be able to go too far, but I will just go into some of the things that Umar made sure about how the judges were appointed. And next week we'll talk about the qualities of the judges in more detail. But in the judges, when we talk about the appointment of the judges, Umar radiallahu anh appointed Shuraih as the judge of Kufa. Now, Qadi Shuraih is one of the most famous judges in the history of Islam. And Qadi Shuraih has made judgments against Umar ibn Khattab in the era of Umar ibn Khattab. Meaning, Umar was the ruler, is the Khalifa, and a judgment was, a dispute was brought against Umar ibn Khattab radiallahu anh, and he gave the judgment against Umar ibn Khattab. What was the judgment? The judgment was a Bedouin came, and he was actually doing a buying and selling with Umar about a horse. Umar said, okay, I want to give a shot. I want to give a try. Umar sat on the horse became lame. You know the lame is one of the legs is not walking straight. Now, Umar said, no, I don't want this horse. It's lame. Now the Bedouin took the case to Qadi Shuraih. So Qadi said, so Umar, you bought the horse. Umar was confused. What happened here? He said, because you either buy the horse now or return the horse the way you took it from the Bedouin. You see what's happened here? It is Umar who sat on the horse and the horse became lame. Horse was not lame prior to that. Hence, the judgment went in the favor of Bedouin, not Umar. So, see that what happened here? Somebody would think, oh, okay, this is something went against the rule that Umar set for against himself now. So he should go and change the rules again in his favor in today's society. This is what they do. How many of you know who Hunter Biden was? Anybody knows Hunter Biden? So not too long ago, he was given what? Presidential pardon. Yeah? About the cases that he was convicted. Number one, not only that, it did not stop there. I would say just Google it and you will see the whole judgment. Judgment goes, in the past 10 years, he is forgiven for all the things that he has done for the cases that were filed against him or even the cases which were not even filed against him. No, not the future. It talks about the last 10 years. So see, this is injustice. While the people are paying the price for the sins that they did, or crimes they did not commit for decades, one who is convicted can be let go. So here, Umar al-Khattab radiallahu anh, when he appointed the judges, he did not change judges if they were giving the judgment against him, or he had the sense that they might go against him, so let's change the whole panel. As a matter of fact, in Islam, there's a rule that and that's about the Qadi Madlama, which is between the rulers and the subject. If there is a case going on against the Khalifa even, the head of the state, and the judge is making a judgment between them, Khalifa does not have the right to change the judge now. So you cannot do this way that, in Urdu we say, jiski lathi uski bhais. Yeah? You know what, everybody knows Urdu here, I think. Jiski lathi uski bhais means that the one who has the power, he makes the rules in his favor, basically. See, this is not the way Islam works. And this is why Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he talked about a Makhzumiyah woman from Bani Makhzum who stole, and the punishment was going to be applied on her, and Usama bin Zayd came to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam for asking Rasulullah to let her go. And the response of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was the previous nations were destroyed because when a Sharif, honorable comes, they will let him go. Tarakuhu. But if a weak one comes, you apply all the rules on him. And Rasulullah said, even if my daughter Fatima would have stolen, he would apply the had on her also. Cut the hand of Fatima, binti Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Of course, does not mean Fatima by any means was doing any of the acts. It's the more of a emphasis that's been made here. So Umar al-Khattab radiallahu anh put many judges, including Shuraih in Kufa and Uthman bin Qais bin Abi al-As as in Egypt. as a judge in that area. And Umar also removed the judges if he found the judge was not capable or has became incapable. Look, sometimes you can become incapable later on in your life. It could be as the brother was talking to me just before I started, he wanted to take away my laptop, and he was asking how I'm going to talk after the laptop is gone. And of course, may Allah give him Jazal Khair, how he had said, you should have replied that because Allah will help me and I will continue to do what I have to do. I said, okay, I have a phone, or Google. Of course, we believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala at the most, but the thing is this, what I'm talking about. What if the judge starts losing his mind, or he starts forgetting things? He's not able, have a capability of connecting the things properly. And this happens with the old age sometimes. Sometimes with the young age even that can happen. So if the person is not incapable of doing the task, Umar radiallahu anh removed the judges as well. Okay, like for example, Abu Maryam al-Hanafi, Umar removed as the judge. And Umar removed even the walis also, if he found that they were not doing the task that they were supposed to do. And the last thing, inshallah, I'll talk about is the salaries quickly, and then we'll stop. Umar made sure that, first of all, he tried his best. The judges are the one who are free from the need of wealth. Why is that? There's a hikmah in there. It's not looking for the rich people to be judges. No, issue was free from the needs. A person can be free from the needs with a very little sometime, and there could be a person who can be millionaire and still is hungry. He's still greedy. Issue is not that. The issue is he's free. He's freed himself from the wealth aspect of it. Now his judgment will be clear. He cannot be bribed. At least, of course, humans are humans, they can make mistakes, but he will chances that when you are making judgment. So he made sure that people are also, he provided them salaries as well for the time that they gave. For example, it's been reported that Salman ibn Rabi' al-Bahili was the judge of Kufa, and he was given 500 dirhams monthly. In Qadi Shuraih he was in Kufa for 100 dirhams each month. Even though he's one of the famous ones, he's given 100 dirham. Abdullah bin Mas'ud al-Hudali, he was given 100 dirham in Kufa, and also given 1/4 of sheep each day. Okay, depends on the need of the person as well. And then it goes about Uthman bin Qais, who was given 200 dirham, Qais bin Abi al-As, he was given 200 dinars in Egypt. So these are the judiciary aspect of when it comes to the salary and how they were appointed, and what are the specific advices Umar bin Khattab radiallahu anh gave to different judges. And Umar also made some judges who were specific in different fields because they were experts in different fields. Okay, so inshallah we'll stop here, and next week we'll start with the qualities of the judges that Umar radiallahu anh made sure, whether he was appointing or appointed by his governors, that those qualities existed among the people to be just judges. Inshallah, if there's any questions or comments about today's talk or previous talks, I'll try to answer them. Okay, Jazakumullah khairan, subhanakallah wa bihamdik, nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta wa nastaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept our fast, our qiyam, our siyam, our ruku', our sujood, whatever kind of a worship that we are engaged in. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept it. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us the correct understanding of the deen, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us among those when they are resurrected on the day of judgment in the company of Anbiya, Siddiqeen, Shuhada and Salihin. Jazakumullah khairan. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.